Hey everyone, good morning, good evening, wherever you're joining us from. It's morning here in San Francisco. Welcome to this super exciting conversation on extending the value of your full fidelity data via agent mode, using connectors. I'm Will Roberts. I'm a product marketer of AI products here at groundcover. And today with me, I have two speakers who have more invested in this than anyone else. First, VP of product, Or Benjamin. Or welcome.
Hey, Will, everyone. Great to see some familiar names over here. Excited to be able to talk to Omar about connectors and what we did over here.
That's great. And also welcoming Omer. Our wonderful PM, also joining from Tel Aviv. Omer, welcome.
Hello, hello. Hi, excited to be here.
For everyone joining, tell us where you're joining from. Feel free to ask questions in the chat window. And if we have time at the end of this, we will make sure that we get to answering some of them in our Q&A section at the end. The slides will be available for download, and it'll be on the same page where you guys can see the recording. I'm going to get to Omer for the demo as quickly as I can. But first, let me recap what was launched so you have some context. Lend me your ear, your attention for 3.5 to 4 minutes. 2 weeks ago, we released connectors into agent mode, the agentic experience in groundcover's BYOC first observability platform. For those who don't know, observability platforms are essential to the teams who are building software and maintaining their own software ecosystems. And observability points out where in their applications or infrastructure there are problems or potential issues. Agent mode already enjoyed a unique level of access to extreme scales of full fidelity telemetry data. And when supercharged with connectors, the benefits of that data can be shared outward via agentic context, enriched further by data from other tools like Slack and Linear, and always without any of the data egress or ingress charges that have historically plagued observability. And that's because groundcover and its data are both already in your cloud. I mentioned Slack and Linear, but there are lots of collaboration and dev tools that act as a part of organizational knowledge, like code repositories on GitHub or projects in Claude. There are plenty of places to exchange the data from agent mode and use agentic tools to drive actions and outcomes. So that brings us to the question of why now? Why this moment? Well, Atomic Media Research in a report commissioned by groundcover found that a significant number of respondents felt pain from their fragmented tool chain. More than 30% of them said that data is missing or siloed that's needed for the use of observability in strategic decision-making. That's exacerbated by the proliferation of observability tooling. Less than 10% of organizations in that same survey said that they use a singular unified platform. According to another observability vendor's own reporting, that's compounded by the fact that observability platforms have to marry data from many sources across the ecosystem. So across company size, that's 6 for a smaller company. The average smaller company is blending data from 6 data sources or SaaS tools. And for larger companies, as measured by employee size, that's as many as 24 data sources or SaaS tools. In that same report, they also broke it up by role. So developers, on average, have to merge, marry, or otherwise join, on average, 10 different data sources in their workflows. And SREs have to join or marry 18 different data sources. So there is obviously context and data all over their ecosystem, and it's important to unify it in a place where they're able actually to access it or leverage it. The report that I talked about from groundcover describes this mechanism directly. When failing, an agent's request trace lives in one tool. There's a cardinality spike in a metrics tool somewhere. and the model provider's error lives in some logging tool. So now an engineer has to go and reconstruct that incident across 3 separate platforms, each tool really only holding a fragment of the story. Now to get to Omer to see what it looks like to enjoy the flexibility of unparalleled access to ground cover agent mode and the full fidelity telemetry data in its rich context, I'm going to turn it over to our superhero PM. Omer, can you help us understand in this demo what it looks like to actually see the power of full telemetry data enjoyed as context?
Of course. Okay, so I'm excited to be sharing with you guys this. Let me start by sharing my screen. All right, let me know. Can you guys see it?
Not quite yet. Loading up. There it is.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so before I jump into showing how our agent uses your organization's knowledge with connectors and connects to your ecosystem, just a quick, very, very short recap for anyone who is less familiar with our platform or has never seen our platform. So out of the box, when you start using ground cover, you get either from installing the eBPF agent or sending OTel data, you get full APM, including latency, throughput, errors. You get traces, logs, events, RAM, session replay, a ton of stuff, name dropping a lot of things here that you can also see in the navbar. And all this can, at the end of the day, be used for either monitoring or for dashboards. Now, this is all very nice, and I think the biggest advantage here as well, or the biggest point here, is that it's all in a BYOC model, the bring your own cloud model that we'll mention, where basically we deploy our backend in your cloud provider and we manage it for you. So the whole overhead of having to scale it up, scale it down, handle issues and all that stuff, we handle it for you. But basically in the BYOC model, your data stays in your cloud, right? In terms of privacy and security, and also in terms of cost. You pay directly to the cloud provider. We don't take a premium on the data that you store. Now, getting into our agent and connectors. Another interesting and very important point about our agent is that it also works in a bring your own model sort of a fashion. And what this means is that, for example, if you're an AWS customer and the backend is in AWS, we would provision Bedrock, which hosts an LLM, and we would use that Bedrock and that LLM in order to power our agent. So also in terms of the tokens that this agent uses, you pay directly to the cloud provider for this as well. We don't take any premiums. You just pay directly for the tokens. And we basically want you to enjoy everything that you can from our platform out of the box. Now, we have our agent here, and I can start to ask it, to investigate some issue, to find me the root cause analysis, to create a dashboard or monitor. But I actually want to start off this whole demo from a different place, from Slack. And Slack has become de facto the platform where so many organizations communicate. There is so much organizational knowledge going on there. And so this is where I want to kick us off from. Now, I have configured our Slack app, groundcover Slack app, and I've set it up to send me notifications for a monitor. This monitor tries to look for one of my services, my invoice service, and it sends me issues when there is a high error rate. Right? I want to get notified when there is a problem with the service, when there's a high error rate. What would usually happen is that when I see this as an on-call, I would go ahead and say, hey, I've never seen this before. Let's try and see if someone from my team has seen it. So I would go ahead and tag, or I would say, hey, have you seen this issue before?
Usually we would be on video as well, communicating at the same time. And I would say back, yeah, I think there's a linear ticket.
Now, and Linear, for anyone who is less familiar, is a project management tool for ticketing, sort of like Jira. And now what I would do is it's not that I'm lazy, but it is quite difficult to try to investigate this issue, see the information from Slack, go over the ground cover, try to investigate the data from there, also check linear out to try to find that ticket and correspond everything. And instead of doing all of that, what I can just do is say, I would just tag my agent, my ground cover agent, and I would say, investigate this issue. And what it would do now is it would start to think, and when I send this agent, it impersonates me. It impersonates the user that has sent the request. And in this specific case, I can also see its to do, right? So I can see it's trying to load some context, check out my errors in the platform, analyze logs, also look for the linear ticket, because it has seen that or mentioned in the thread. It's getting this whole Slack thread as context as well. And so it's enriching the investigation with more organizational knowledge, both from Slack, from linear, and from any other connector that it sees relevant to use. And going back to my previous point, what the agent does is that it impersonates me, and it not only uses my permission as a user. So if I, for example, have specific RBAC to see only specific namespaces or clusters, or maybe I have a permission to be read-only, not to be an editor or an admin, that agent would use my user and would see only my scope, so there is no way to work around it, right? You cannot just go ahead and query a namespace or any data that is outside of your scope and permissions. In addition to that, we have cost management, so you could restrict a user's budget, and this is also used every time we query the agent, whether it's from the platform or from Slack, right? It will be taken out of my budget, even though the message at the end, and we can see it here, would be sent to Slack for everyone. In this case, what I can see, I have a root cause analysis, and it's giving me all this data, and I can see, some of the logs that it was basing off of and why it thinks there's an issue. And then it's telling me, okay, what it's recommending is that I enable this feature flag, which is probably the reason why I'm getting the errors. And it's telling me this is the linear ticket that Or was talking about beforehand, and who it was assigned to. So what I can continue to do here is to say, reopen the linear ticket, and using cursor, I open a PR to change this feature flag. Oh, misspelled that, but it will understand what I'm saying. So now again, I'm using the connectors from one single place where I'm comfortable working to interact with everything. And the reason why I started it off with the ground cover agent is because the investigation started from an observability platform, right? There is a problem that we saw, and we need to understand and get more context, find out why. So while that's kicking off, and I'll jump back into here in a moment to show you exactly how that looks when we go ahead and enable or use cursor, just wanted to go ahead and show you also the agent mode inside the product. So here as well, I can control with every conversation what connectors I'm using. But I already kind of touched on that. So I do want to show another very popular use case, which is to create dashboards and monitors. I think for everyone probably who has ever created a dashboard or a monitor, it's not the easiest thing to do. It's not a very fun thing to do usually. And so one of the really cool things is that, okay, it's asking me to approve. Let's approve it. There's always interesting stuff happening in live demos. We cannot control it. But if I go to the issue from here, let me just do this. Oh, I can't. Okay. And I can add this issue as context to my agent. And I can say, create a dashboard for this. Now, this is the issue. It understands it. And it will start to build a dashboard for me. Now, of course, this is a bit vague. You could use it to create any dashboard that you want. But I just want to emphasize this particular case. And just one last thing while this is running that I think is very important in terms of both the agent and the connectors is that if I go into any one of these connectors here, and I can, as an admin, control what my organization does, and as a user, control my own connectors, I actually have the ability to restrict tools as well, both for myself and as an admin. So if I'm an admin and I want to say, hey, you know what? There's this tool here called delete customer. And I don't want users to be able to do that with AI at all. This is too risky. And deleting comments, I want to let people do it, but I don't want it to be automatic, right? I want for when someone uses the agent and it wants to delete a comment, it has to ask for permission to do that, right? So there is another human in the loop. And then when I go ahead as a user to configure my tools for linear, I would see down here that for deleting a customer, I cannot give it any permission that is more permissive than what the admin gave it. So if the admin blocked it, I cannot change it to ask for automatic. So basically, I cannot use it, or the agent, my agent, cannot use it. And same thing goes for delete a comment, right? So I can only make a more permissive restriction for it. So I could say, a more restrictive. I cannot give it a more permissive. So I could block it if I want, but I cannot automatically let it approve. And while I was talking, the preview for the dashboard has finished. And what we can see here is that it created a dashboard. There are sections, various widgets. It's giving me top errors for this endpoint, distribution of status codes, relevant logs, all that. Might not be perfect, but it's a really good starting point. So I could go ahead and create this dashboard and then continue to either ask the agent to improve it or do it myself.
Omer, I want to just intervene for 1 second because you've really glossed over, or not glossed over, you made this look so easy. And as a product person in marketing who's never built an observability dashboard before, is there usually a certain amount of toil associated with that? Or like, what does it usually look like to build this kind of a process?
To do it by yourself without
Yes.
So, I mean, if you wanted to create a dashboard, you can go ahead and manually create widgets and configure them and give it the metrics, the functions, all of that. Or you could actually use the create widget button. So in this case, again, you could go ahead and say, add a widget for, 500 errors in traces, right? Just giving it something, again, a bit basic, but gets the point along. And you can see how fast this came back and gave me a preview for a widget that I could use. Now I have something here from the sharing screen at the bottom that it kind of hides it from me, but I could click create, and I have this dashboard, this widget. And if I want to make any change for it, I could say actually make it 400 errors and traces. And it just goes back, gets what I want, and in a moment we'll see, okay, it's now 400. So let's save it, and we have that. It's really as simple as that if you want to add on more things or change things in the dashboard.
Super cool.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's probably it for me. I will give the floor to some more people to speak because I've taken a lot of the time. It's always fun showing these demos. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks, Omer. I really appreciate it. I want to spend a little more time now, or with you as the person who's helping us think through product strategy, and just talk about why we've even built connectors into agent mode in the first place. We saw an amazing workflow of how easy it is to use agent mode, especially for this like high toil event like building a dashboard. But why did we build connectors into agent mode as a part of this release?
Yeah, so I'm kind of looked a little bit earlier around the list of people who are here, and I see that primarily it's our existing customers that have come out to listen about what we've built over here and how they could potentially use it. And so when I kind of think about this population, you've seen ground cover already, and you understand the value prop behind it. You understand what we're trying to do. We're trying to get all of your data into one place, so those traditional silos that you have within observability could be broken, so that you could get every single data source and all the context that it entails, and we could enable this amazing AI on top of it to go and give value beyond what you could have historically. When we started going down this journey of building ground cover, it was right before AI predated, and then we were here building this product as the world kind of shifted in front of us. And so we knew that with the BYOC architectural advantage that we had, that we invested so much into, and with our eBPF sensor that was able to get all these super high fidelity signals and be able to go and tag them at a very high level to correlate between all these different points, that AI layer is going to be something that is so much more impactful and impressive than any other competitor could provide because of that natural data advantage. And so the next level to that, the continuity of it, was how do we take agent mode and now extend that? And we started thinking around different vectors that we could offer that allow it to be more powerful. And the natural one that kept coming up from conversations with you guys, from conversations with the rest of our customers, is the fact that people have their data spread out, not just within silo observability patches, but within siloed SaaS tools across the organization. And as we spoke to more and more customers, and as we understood more and more use cases, we understood that it's going to be different and differed across every one of those customers. And what we really want to do is to enable you to be able to plug in and extend anything and everything that you have. So whether it's organizational knowledge, tribal knowledge that you have within Notion around how your workloads work and what is the relevant escalation policy, or whether it's project management tickets that you have, or bug requests that have been raised that you want to validate and ensure that they're still active or not, or whether you actually want to go and use all of this high fidelity observability telemetry data to go and to rewrite code and to go into make it something where the impact is felt within the code base itself. We want to be able to go and support you in it. And we want to make this something that is generic, and we want to make sure that we're building in the right types of guardrails up front. So to me, there was a ton in that demo that was really impressive. But the one piece that we maybe thought about more than everything else is how do we foundationally build it so that things like cost control, so things like guardrails around what tools could be accessed in what format by who, things like role-based access control being passed on to the individual user. All of those elements to us are the foundational pieces that we invested quite a bit up front into to make sure that once we get it to this point, you will be able to create the strategy around it that fits your organization. All of this modern tooling is amazing, but if there aren't the right guardrails in place, if there aren't the right foundations in place, then ultimately that will be a hindrance to how do we go and allow you to get the most out of it. So that's kind of top of mind when we're doing this. And as we continue forward, that's going to continue to be in our mantra. We're building enterprise-ready tools from day zero because we know that that's ultimately going to be the limitation about people using it within their organization. Now, on a selfish manner as well, we use ground cover every day around all of our tremendous customers, around all of our environments, to go and to dog food it. And we wanted to go and benefit from having our entire SaaS ecosystem plugged in, from being able to go and connect all of the different agents that we have within our platform, and within our world, and to be able to bring all of that knowledge in as well to our investigations and our flows. So what is right for us ultimately tends to be right for our customers and vice versa. And this just fits. And I'm, really excited. And in a little bit, we're going to talk as well, give you a little bit of teaser of what's to come. And this is not it by any means.
No, it's an exciting teaser. Hopefully that keeps people around for a little bit more of the conversation towards the end. But If I can just recap what you've said, we have this super powerful agent that we have given unbelievable context, and it's in a commercial model that really only our customers can enjoy. But because agents are inherently a little free acting sometimes, we have to put guardrails on what it is that we want them to do as we help our enterprise customers. And so this connectors launch both expands the access to data and it's the tools that our agents can use, but at the same time keeps them shepherded to do it in the right way.
Yeah, I mean, the vision is connecting all of the data you have in your organization and allowing AI to create meaningful impact around it. But the reality is that as you go and roll that out within an organization, it's not that simple. You start hitting challenges around who could do what, how could they do it, how do I, as an admin or owner of that space, start dictating that organizationally? And so we're thinking about it within groundcover to be that one place where you could do that, to be as close to this observability data and to enable you to go and set up anything and everything you need on top of that. So for us, we're kind of thinking about it as a holistic solution and not these one-off features. And I think that's kind of the piece that is driving our product strategy around it.
Amazing. Thank you. That's a perfect synopsis. That was exactly what I was hoping to hear from you. Well, we saw the demo. We understand a bit more about why we built this. I want to use this as a chance to have you and Omer and I sort of talk about this a bit more flexibly, with a slightly less structure. One of the questions that I had when we first started talking about connectors several weeks ago was, why would I do the workflow that Omer showed in a place like Slack as opposed to in something like Claude? Why would I use that as the starting place? And I guess, or you might be the person that I'd go to first, just kind of give your thoughts as to why.
Yeah, I mean, to me, in a word, is collaboration, right? Slack is a place where all your team lives, where all of your issues arise, where all your questions are answered, where your dilemmas are solved, right? People go and connect on top of it and collaborate on top of it. It's just kind of become that native hub of where do you go and collaborate on top of work. And to me, there's no place more native than that. So when we think about our Slack app, it's really about allowing work to occur in the place where developers want that to happen, as well as enabling multiple people to be able to collaborate. Because we know that the work of developers, the work of infrastructure engineers, our core customers, that isn't something that happens as a silo. That's not one individual. These are questions that go across teams, go within the team, jump across people, jump across shifts. Like all of this thing needs to ultimately be something that encompasses and allows you to collaborate. And Slack is the perfect platform for that. Omer, you want to add something on top? Anything?
Yeah, I think it also, these are really strong and really main points for why we did this. And I think it also comes down to the question that you're trying to answer. I think that oftentimes when you try to answer vague questions about issues that you don't necessarily know what created them or where they're coming from, sometimes it would be difficult to be able to solve that, for example, with a coding agent or various other agents that have other context, right? And if you're trying to find an answer in the sea of, terabytes and trillions of logs, traces, APM data, you want something that is, native to that has that context, that is close to the data, and that has the right skills in order to start off and kick off this investigation. But on the other hand, you also want to be able to cooperate with the entire ecosystem that everyone uses. So the reality is that most people, at the end of the day, they work through Slack, and that's where we want to meet our developers and our customers, right? Wherever they're comfortable, wherever they share knowledge, wherever they want to start off to kick the investigation from.
That's interesting. You're kind of alluding to one of my favorite ideas, which is data gravity, and getting as close to the origination of that data and where it's persisted. And I think that there's a strong argument for agent mode's access to your a very high gravity center of data with groundcover's platform. I guess you also brought up another point that I kind of want to hear what you guys think about. Why in this structure, then, maybe Slack connector aside, would you go to a coding agent versus agent mode versus using our MCP? Because they're different access points to similar capabilities, not quite the same, but similar capabilities. And I think is maybe a point that our customers care about. Why choose one over the other?
Yeah, I think to expand more on that point, I think at the end of it all comes down to what you're trying to answer. What is the problem? And there is a place in the world for all these different agents, in my opinion. If you're trying to write code and you're trying to solve a problem with your code in your code repo, it makes a lot more sense to use a coding agent and not an observability agent in order to write it. If you're trying to understand anything that is related or maybe that is a bit unstructured or unknown regarding your application, your infrastructure, and you want to rely on observability data, I think at the end of the day, you can use a coding agent with an MCP, right? It works for many use cases, and we've seen a lot of customers use it as well. It has a justified place in the world. But at the end of the day, there is a bit less context to begin with. I think you have the context of the repo, but not of the entire data. So you would often need to pull a lot of data from the platform to your coding agent, to the context, which has a limit at the end of the day. Whereas on the other side, if you're trying to solve something with an observability, and then you reach a conclusion that there's a problem in the code, you could go ahead and use an MCP with, for example, something that can write code with our agent or even with Cursor or with Claude, which we integrate with, right?
That makes sense. There's a directionality to the discovery and the workflow, right? That you're kind of making reference to there, which is an interesting approach or limitation or direction I hadn't quite thought of before. Okay, amazing. Thanks for answering that. That gives me a lot more clarity. Or you, in the beginning of this, sort of made mention of a tease about where this is headed. Do you want to tell our customers who are primarily here and some prospects who will eventually see this more about that? Or
yeah, I'll extend the tease a little bit. So what you basically saw is the fruition of maybe the last year or so of work, kind of building out agent mode, building out the foundational piece around how do we enable our agent to be able to ask questions on top of ground cover, be able to apply everything within a single query language, connect the outside world with connectors, allow us to be able to create our own skills within ground cover. And we've built out a lot of fundamental building blocks about how do we work with agent mode, extend agent mode, and make it more powerful. And the route that we're going to very soon is moving towards a world where you could create custom agents within ground cover for your observability needs, to be able to allow you to define them according to your specific strategy, define what are the triggers that you imagine in place, whether that is deployment based. I had a certain deployment that happened, and then I had a business metric that changed as a result, whether that is based off of some event that's occurring from the outside world, whether that is off of time. We'll be able to go and support any use case that originates from within your observability stack. And because everything's already in ground cover, and because you have all the power of BYOC, we believe that this will be an incredibly powerful solution that will enable you to go and really push forward your strategy around how to get the most out of agent mode and how to incorporate AI into your development lifecycle process over there, and to go and move it from being something reactive to truly proactive. So that's all in the works, and I'm very, very excited about doing another one of these in a few months with you, and kind of playing all of that back with Omer and the journey that we've done. More to come, and feel free to reach out if there's any questions around that. But we are going full steam ahead towards it. It's very exciting.
Omer, you got your product marketing sweating over here because you're sharing so many great details about what's coming out. And I want everybody to make sure that they come back to the next one of these without feeling like they already know it. But no, that's great. I appreciate you giving everybody the context of where we're headed and the sort of roadmap and the story, because it's super exciting. We're coming up close to time with just a few minutes left. And there were a couple of questions that were in the chat. I want to make sure that I call them out for people who are watching the recording. Or the question came in and you answered it, but what alternatives do we have access to in lieu of Slack when it comes to collaboration?
I mean, ultimately, if we want to be able to invoke, agent mode and be able to have that back and forth, there's basically two manners that you could do it. You have the Slack app that you're able to kind of go and have that interaction, or the traditional method that we've had to date, which is either via the UI itself or MCP. I see that there's a follow-up question around Teams. We do support Teams from perspective of notifications, but we don't have any explicit plans right now to go and to have the agent be callable from Teams and have the same level of support as Slack, due to more challenges and limitations around making that happen. But I'm sure that's something that Omer will keep top of mind as well as we move forward.
Awesome, that's great. There was another question in the chat specific to Claude as the managed agent connector and its availability. The question was, when can we expect that?
So for the Claude managed agents, we're actually working on that right now. I think it might even be out this week. If not, then probably next week. It's something that we are currently focusing on. And yeah, I mean, it's going to be an interesting one.
This team moves fast. Okay, great. And we had sourced a couple of questions from customers as we teased out this release and the webinar coming up. One of the questions was, does each integration require another SKU or integration point charge? I guess that would be someone who's not all the way yet familiar with groundcover's pricing model. Omer,
Yeah.
do you have an answer? Or actually, sorry, do you have an answer for?
We'll do round robin on it, so you got the next.
Yeah.
So yeah, just like everything we've done to date, we're continuing our philosophy that pricing should be simple. We don't price based off of any product SKU. There's no additional add-ons. We try to keep it as simple as possible. Only the one vector of how many nodes do you have multiplied by your price. So again, there's not going to be any addition over here. And we want you to get the most out of groundcover, whether that's within the traditional observability space or the new AI era. We want you to use it. We want you to get the most out of these feature sets, no additional cost.
Incredible. One of the other questions that came in was around skills, custom skills were another part of this launch story. Is there a way to manage skills, and do you have that management in place?
Yeah, so I guess I'll be taking this one. We do support skills both. You can create skills for yourself as a user if you know how you like to work with an agent for specific tasks. You can create skills. You can also give the agent instructions, right, for how it should work every single time, because skills can be loaded dynamically. They don't always apply, whereas instructions would always apply when the agent runs. And in addition to that, an admin can also create organizational skills, right? So if you have information about the data of the organization for how you want to handle specific tasks in the agent, an admin can go ahead and set that up as an organizational skill, and then all of the users would be able to use that skill as well.
Amazing. Well, guys, that is as much time as we have, unfortunately. I feel like we could have a conversation about the connector story and extending the value of groundcover's unique level of telemetry data access for a long time. I'm going to give the final sort of pitch and story for groundcover in case there are folks who have made it all the way here and still don't know exactly what it is that we offer and also what our follow-up steps are. So groundcover, we provide a comprehensive view of your entire environment, offering infrastructure monitoring, log management, APM, all the things that Omer already talked about, giving you the singular level of insights and scope that only groundcover customers can enjoy in the observability space. Unlike some other observability players, there's no separation into packages or parts of the platform. Once you sign up for groundcover, you get full access to all of its capabilities. On this slide is the schedule a meeting conversation so you can see what full access actually looks like for you. We have solutions engineers who are available and ready to help you level up your observability strategy and are very easy to schedule a conversation with. Guys, thank you so much for this amazing conversation. I really appreciate the demo and given the context. Omer and Or, and for all the folks who stayed on, thank you guys, and we hope to see you on the next one.
Thanks, everyone.
Perfect.
A lot of fun.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.